Jennifer, let's move to the second topic that you brought me. I love this. I love this juicy podcast format. I'm a huge fan of this. So I really really like all three of these topics that you sent me. This particular topic I have been hearing more and more about, which is that now that Stellest is available, um, doctors are seeing a lot of pushback with parents who just want to buy the glasses and don't want myopia treatment. They don't want myopia management treatment or myopia management program is how I should say that. Like they just want the RX, they just want the glasses. They're not interested in a myopia management program. And how should doctors start to address this? Like, what can you tell us about this topic? Like, and why is it controversy?
Yeah, this is where I really want feedback. I'm not sure how I feel about I'm just starting to experience this, right? But it's come up twice in the past week for me. So it's really on top of mind. One was within our own clinical care. We had a patient who was like, I just want to buy the glasses. I don't want to pay for that separate program fee. And I realized one solution would be to bundle it all together. But if you are an optometry office that accepts insurance and you're going to be using insurance on the Stellest glasses, that becomes an impossible situation to bundle it all together. So then a patient is paying for the glasses with their vision care benefit plan, and they're paying for the doctor's services separately. Okay, that just this is America. That's how it's going to work. So then you get this situation where like, okay, well, I'm going to buy the glasses, but I don't want to pay for that other part. We'll just come in and see the doctor next year. Because historically, when you bought glasses, that's what it was always like.
Mhm.
And then secondly, I saw a Facebook post the other day. Mom, this was not within our practice. Mom was like, I was quoted $450 for these glasses. And then they want me to pay even more to come see the doctor again. Like, this seems like a scam. And like, for whatever reason, there's a percentage of Americans whose gut instinct on everything at a doctor's office is that it's a scam. And so
Mhm.
if there's something that's, and the next 10 posts are like, you can get the glasses on Zenni. You can get glasses for $99 at Warby. I'm like, we're not talking about the same kind of glasses here, people.
Right.
But anyway, like there's so much misinformation if you take this discussion to the internet amongst people. And so then your patients are even more confused. And then someone's like, well, if you go to Target, you can get the glasses for $50 and you don't have to pay for a program. And so everyone's like, just go get them at Target. So this is what we're going to be facing, doctors, if you haven't had this happen in your practice already. And these are the two arguments, Matt, in my opinion. One is for Essilor Stellest to work effectively for myopia management, which is why you're paying the $450 for the lenses anyway. You have to make sure that the kid is complying with the program. So that's where these doctor touch points really does come into play. We do a 2-week follow-up after dispense to make sure the glasses are aligned, that they're adapting to the glasses correctly. Because if they cannot wear them, if they're put them on and immediately get a headache and they're now sitting on the table somewhere, they're not going to have effective myopia management. Let's say that they get the glasses and they're like, I can't wear them to school though, because it makes things too weird. So I'm wearing them like for 3 hours for homework every day.
Right.
That's not gonna work. The study data says you need to wear them 12 hours a day, at least 6 days a week. So you need these touch points with the doctor to make sure that the treatment program is being followed appropriately. And then we do a 6-month follow-up, of course. And I always, tell people, included with the $450 cost on the lenses, Essilor will do a one-time remake for our RX change of 0.5 or more. How are
Mhm.
you going to know that your prescription has changed to take advantage of that one-time remake? You're going to need an appointment mid-year to see if the prescription's changed. So to me, that doctor's visit is just adding value to what you just bought on the lenses. Is ensuring that you're getting the most out of your glasses that you just spent money on. So this is like a value advantage for you. So, but that takes discussion. That's going to take, and some patients are going to be like, "Nah, I'm good anyway." And are you going to
Right.
be willing to be like, "Well, I'm not going to sell you Essilor Stellest glasses if you don't come back and see me again," because someone else will be willing
Mhm.
to do that.
Mhm.
And so, this is where doctors we're going to have to decide how we're going to handle that situation. Would you sell the glasses without a program? Are we going to insist on a program? Like, I don't know the answer. So, Matt, what are your thoughts?
I have thoughts. This has been something I've been thinking a lot about, especially since I've had Dr. Christine Jung and David Ng on the podcast before, who are both Canadian practitioners, and they've had access to a veritable buffet of myopia anti myopia spectacles over the last like 8 to 10 years. And one of the things that keeps ringing in my ears over and over again, or is top of mind for me, is this race to the bottom, is the way that David Ing put it, where he said, in the beginning, it's going to seem really profitable if it's anything like what we experienced in Canada. But then as big box gets a hold of these, as soon as like less dialed in optometry practices or opticians begin fitting these, you're going to see lots of issues. David and Christine both described instances where patients had come in purchasing their anti myopia spectacles somewhere else, and then they were like, these don't work. Why is this happening? And they'd have to assess the fact that, they weren't like, I think there's one case I'm remembering specifically that Dr. Langis Michaud was talking about on stage, where mom was taking the kid's glasses off when he was doing sports. So when he's playing soccer or whatever, when he's playing with other kids, the mom was like, "Oh, these myopia glasses are really important," and she would take them off of him while he played because she didn't want them to get broken, right? But we know that you got the studies around the efficacy of these lenses were done within a 10 to 12 hour, like, properly fitted, properly wearing them, which basically means you have to wear them all the time, you know? So for the parent that's like, I've been extremely skeptical of the success of the glasses in America specifically, because I think Americans are just a different breed of human being as a whole. Our culture is different, our buying habits are different, our expectations are different. As you pointed out, there's been a lot of loss of trust in institution, in healthcare, in everything basically. I think it's only natural for parents to be like, why do I have to pay this amount of money and then also do a myopia program? And I think the real struggle falls on the education of the practitioner, and how they're positioning their products. Like the practice I grew up in, if my dad as the clinician, as the optometrist, if he got that level of pushback, he would be like, "Okay, that's fine. Like, why don't you go home and think about it?" That was like his catchphrase when you
Yeah.
knew he was like done with the patient and the conversation wasn't going to move forward. I think it really comes down to parent and patient education, and whether or not the clinician is in a good enough spot to be able to have that conversation. And I think the factors that are participating in that problem are: how often do we get to see the patient? For how much time do we get to see the patient? Is myopia management, like, how big of a role does it play in the practice? Because the Stellest and the low-dose atropine from the last topic are kind of being positioned as like, I've said this, as kind of like the easy button for myopia management. Start getting involved, start doing
Yeah.
this right away. But if you don't have a program in place, if you're not an effective communicator, if your practice doesn't like eat, breathe, and live myopia, I think you're fighting an uphill battle especially with the glasses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, it makes total sense to me. Um, and I think our only real way to get around this is to make sure we educate the value of the myopia management program and to try to, obviously you gotta cover chair time. I totally respect that. But we have to make it, like at a price that seems digestible to a patient. And everyone has their own chair time costs and their own fee schedules, and that is totally appropriate, right? But if I can take those few minutes to say, hey, these glasses cost this much, my job is to make sure that we're seeing each other through the year to make sure that these glasses are working. Because if your
Mhm.
eyes are still getting worse, we're going to need to make some adjustments. We're going to need to look at alternative options or adding additional options. And so my job, the glasses job is, its studies show it can slow down prescription change. But if I don't do my job as the doctor to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do, you might still be getting worse. And so
Right.
that's why the program's important. And just try to make it a 1 to 2 sentence thing, but it's going to be on me to make sure I'm having that conversation. So when they go out to optical to buy the glasses, they're not like, but I don't want that program though.